Welcome into the Week 6 Starts It show with the IDP guys. How is everyone doing today? My name is Michael Sicoli. I'm joined by Ricky and Sean. As always, how are we doing this morning, gents? How you doing, Ricky?
I am doing fantastic. Got a great family, and we got football today, and got a wife that lets me watch football without nagging, and so life is good, man.
There you go. There you go. Sean, how are you doing? I
I'm
heard
doing
he's
well.
doing well. This guy's
Yeah,
doing well.
I'm doing well also. My wife just left the house with half the kids, so there'll be no nagging here either.
You and the TV. You and the TV, and that's all you could
Yep.
ask for. Well, we're going to be jumping into all of your start state questions, offense and defense, as long as you're asking them in the chat. We already have plenty lined up from before the show that people have already dropped in. So make sure you are dropping those questions. We'll be answering them throughout the next hour. And also important to note, unless you have Twitter Blue, I don't believe your questions will come through on Twitter to us here. So Elon, that's his thing. But YouTube will still see them. So if you comment on YouTube on our live stream right now, we will see those questions. We'll be pulling them up throughout the show. But before we jump into that, I want to make sure you guys are all following the IDP guys and on Twitter, following our socials and everything like that at IDP guys. We're blowing up here on YouTube, all that good jazz, and just make sure you're a part of the good crowd of IDP community we got here. We're 100 people away from 6,000 on Twitter. So really close to getting all that accomplished. But for now, we're going to be trying to accomplish some fantasy points for week 6. So keep those questions going in. We got plenty to start with. But we're going to start with a quick question as usual. Dallas and Buffalo both had major injuries to their linebacker core last week. Matt Milano after the season, Lane Vander Esch dealing with another neck injury, which sucks. But someone has to step up for fantasy purposes. Sean, do you have an idea on which one you're picking in both for both these teams?
Oh, well, it's looking good right now for these backups. I just don't know how much playing time we're going to get from them,
It's
especially
tricky.
with Buffalo's situation. You know, they came in with Williams right away, the rookie, and I think he played. I think
It was like
first drive.
36. It was the like 30% of snaps or so he finished with, and then Tyrell Dodson ended up doing the cleanup duties after that.
Right. So they may be leaning more towards Dotson just for that, veteran presence. He has familiarity with the system. Uh, it's just not a great, it's not a very exciting pickup to go get right now, especially with rookie fevers doing people's minds. But I do think Dotson is the guy moving forward. It could be on a short leash. We could see a rotation here. Uh, I, I'm kind of avoiding the situation unless I'm just in a really deep league where I can get one or both. But until one just takes the reins and runs with it, it's hard to trust.
Ricky, what about you?
I think Sean hit it on the head with his later comments there when he said, "This is a week to watch, observe, and let's see how this plays out." Unless you're desperate with only 2 teams on bye, hopefully you have other options. But so many different ways this could go. You could see for Dallas, you could see Damone Clark moving into the middle and seeing the safeties playing where Damone was playing, but which ones and how much? Similar in Buffalo. The other thing to mention, you have Dodson, you have Dorian Williams. They also signed 32-year-old AJ Klein off
Yeah.
of their practice squad
Oh God.
and made him part of the 53 as well. And they trust, Sean McDermott has tended to trust veterans over rookies and so forth. There was a reason Bernard didn't play much last year, even when he could have had a couple opportunities. So watch for AJ Klein to be the sleeper on this. If you have a deep spot on your bench, I'd be looking to pick up AJ Klein. But in general for this week, I'm keeping them all on the bench.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the right call with Buffalo. It's a tricky situation. I'm a big Dorian Williams fan, but I'm in full agreement that it's not going to happen this year. So to me, I'm hoping Tyrell Dodson gets that opportunity and runs with it. They were all seemingly prepared to go into the season with him as the starter, and but we have seen AJ Klein come in and take snaps and really ruin everyone's fantasy days last year. So I want to focus on Dallas a little bit here. I do think Damone Clark is going to get 100% of snaps or close to it, and I think that could be a very valuable role. But Ricky, you bring up a great point with the safety usage. I mean, Donovan Wilson's constantly in the box, and maybe this is just a big uptick for him. So either way, it's two situations that we're going to get answers one way or another today on Sunday. But
and I've seen Curse in the box, and I've seen Marquise Bell in the box. So it's okay. We be watching that one very carefully tomorrow night.
I believe they brought Rashaan Evans into the practice squad. I don't believe they activated him. I could have missed that news, but
at this point, he has not been elevated to the roster for this week.
Okay, so that will be a next week thing, if anything. So Damone Clark could be a solid play for now, but like you said, it could be any of those safeties without Dan Quinn uses his defensive back. So let's jump into some of these questions here. Start off with willpower, and remember, we're starting from the earliest question we got to the latest, so we are going to get to all of them. If we don't jump to yours immediately, know it's coming. So willpower asking, even if Jalen Phillips plays today, a weekly headache that Jalen Phillips is with us, would you start Van Ginkel over Ed Oliver, AJ Epineza, Leonard Floyd, Von Miller, Carl Granderson, or Tuli Tuipulotu? If Jalen Phillips plays, I'm not playing Van Ginkel, so I'm picking one of these other names. And to me, that's either Ed Oliver, maybe Granderson, maybe Tuli. But don't love that Dallas matchup. I'll go Ed Oliver against New York. That's my pick here. I think, again, I see a sea of nods around me on this StreamYard panel. So, Sean, you in agreement?
I'm probably starting Ed Oliver even if Jalen Phillips plays until I can see him get a full workload and survive it more or less. Ed Oliver has been on fire, and they're playing the Giants, who have very not been on fire. So, yeah, give me that matchup. That's the one I really want.
Different type of fire, more of a dumpster fire with New York.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So the Giants are fifth in terms of points given up to defensive tackles. Not surprising. And then on top of that, on the offensive line in general, John Michael Schmitz out, Matt Pert out, Andrew Thomas out. I'm forgetting somebody else out. Their whole line should be out. I'm having fun with this. And so the other thing is the Bills lost Daquan Jones to injured reserve. And Oliver's snap count is expected to go up even more slightly. And so I love Oliver for all the aforementioned reasons.
Yeah, it's a great point right there. I don't think Tuli would be a bad play. I think he would be the second name here, maybe Epineza, but I think everyone's expected to play on that defensive line inside of Daquan Jones, so might not be a ton of playing time for Epineza like we saw last week. So willpower also asking Reed Blankenship, Kevon Wallace, Jordan Fuller, Jordan Whitehead, Kirby Joseph, Jerry Jacobs, Jason Pinnock, pick 2. Kevon Wallace stands out to me as a clear pick here, and then it's a tougher decision between the Lions defensive backs and Reed Blankenship. So I'm gonna pass off to my good pal Ricky here. Pick your 2 defensive backs.
I said it at the end of last show. Luckily, no one made fun of it on Twitter. That at least that was our X, excuse me. But if this one, I'm going with my blankie again. I'm gonna go with Blankenship and Wallace on this one. I mean, Whitehead had the big first week with the several interceptions. Joseph has been playing deep, not getting a lot of tackles. Jacobs cornerback in. Pinnock got the pick 6. So sometimes you look at the points from last week and you get all excited because of the points someone had. But the likelihood of a repeat interception or repeat pick 6 is actually pretty low. So I'm going with my blankie and Kayvon Wallace.
Sean.
Yeah, I think I'm with you with Blankenship and Wallace. Kind of like Fuller a little bit, but that would not be the only other option I would choose against Blankenship would be Fuller.
Yeah, that's what I'm debating. I think I actually will go Wallace and Fuller here. I was briefly discussing Jerry Jacobs in my mind because I do like Jerry Jacobs. I like what he's been doing this year. It's not the greatest matchup, but I don't think it's as bad as it looks on paper. But all that said, I think I'm going to go Wallace and Fuller. I love that Arizona matchup for Fuller, and the high possibility of a turnover is also always there for him. Did you lock in the answer, Sean? Or
Yeah, I'm locking in Blankenship and Wallace. But
Okay.
like I said, Fuller's right there with them.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. Another one for Willpower. Is Eric Hendricks worth an ad for Monday night? Would you drop Kazir White, Bobby Wagner, CJ Mosley, TJ Edwards? No. Okay, I'll just answer that for everybody. Quincy Williams is available. Let's look at it that way. Quincy Williams is available. Would you drop any of those names for Quincy Williams, who has been unbelievably good this year? Ricky.
Quincy Williams is a top 5 linebacker. I'm absolutely picking him. And I can't run to that website right now, push smash on adding Quincy Williams. Of this group, I would probably drop White.
Well, so that's the interesting one, right? Is my head went to dropping Kazir White as well, but then you're rostering both the Jets linebackers. Do you have any worry with that?
I personally don't. They're both scoring extremely well. They're both in position to get a lot of tackles. I'm fine with that. And it's a great question, Michael, but I'm not losing sleep on that one.
What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I actually have a league or two where I do have Quincy and Mosley together. I think White's in that league also. Yeah, I mean, it's a deep league, but yeah, there's no problem when guys are producing that well. Yeah, you can have them on the same team. And if, 5 weeks come into effect, I'll take that loss for 1 week if it's going to win me all the other games. I'm not scared to go that route.
I'm with you on that. My only consideration is that they're both on bye next week, and there are a lot of teams on bye next week.
Right.
So that's the only question for me. But if I'm able to find the starters for next week without having any worry about losing both those linebackers, I'll agree with you guys. I'd be dropping Quincy Williams for Kazir, or I'd be picking up Quincy Williams for Kazir White if next week's buys are not going to be an impact. All right.
And the other thing, maybe there's someone in another position that he can drop for the 1 week.
You could also drop
get away with it.
Aziz, who has a bye next week, as well as I mean, you could drop. Would you rather drop Kazir White or Aziz? Let's just do that real quick. Sean.
I would have no problem dropping Aziz over White's just because White is the main linebacker of his team, where Jack Gibbons is giving Aziz a fair run for competition there.
I agree with that. What about you, Ricky?
Well, Aziz is still getting the majority of the snaps and all over Gibbons, so I'd stick with Aziz, to be honest with you, over White. At some point, I just have this feeling as the year goes on, you're going to see these journeyman veterans on the Arizona Cardinals end up on the bench. And so, I could see Owen Popo playing more instead of Kaiser White at some point. So that would be the other thing to keep in mind, Will.
We're basically splitting hairs with these groups of linebackers. I mean, they're all fantastic to have.
Yeah.
But the net message, grab Quincy, push the add button on him.
Yeah. That's the general answer here. Question from Mark LeBlanc. Yes, is your answer here. How do you feel about Kwity Paye coming back for the concussion? He had a great start to the year based on EuroLeague scoring and most league scoring before getting hurt. I've picked him up. I dropped Quinton Williams for him in one more shallow league. I'm all in on Kwity Paye. I love him. It's a fantastic matchup against Jacksonville, and I'm rocking Kwity Paye with confidence. What about you, Ricky?
I'm on the Kwity Paye train as well. Very confident playing him this week. I do like the matchup as well. Jacksonville is 8th in terms of giving up points to defensive ends as well. Walker Little is hurt, so as well. Anton Harrison, a rookie, getting mixed reviews so far. Paye is usually on Harrison's side, in fact. So I would run with Kwity Paye confidently.
Sean.
Yeah, Paye will be just fine this week.
Well, Mark also
Can I mention something about Mark? So please. Mark saw your X post too, by the way. Did warn you about Bolton last week for the record. I want to call that out.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you ended up still winning. That was the important thing. Glad you won last week, man.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because I dropped the ball on that one last week. He practiced all week, and then he just didn't play well. Mark LeBlanc, another question. And I like this one as well. It's a good thinker. Budda Baker could be activated next week. That is stuff I'm hearing as well, although I don't know if they actually opened his practice window yet, which they could do that same week anyway, but who knows. Is he worth a speculative add, or would you rather keep/add Jamal Adams, who is expected to? It feels like he'll make his debut this week, even though he played 10 snaps, 4 snaps, something like that, in 2 weeks ago. So Jamal Adams, Budda Baker, which one would you rather have in your roster, Sean?
I'll take Baker. I've been out on Adams for years now. He's just too injury prone. I feel like that defense doesn't need him. I feel like it rolls just fine without him, whereas Baker would actually stabilize some of that back end and kind of win his job back, I believe. I like Baker on this.
Sean, Ricky, sorry.
The other Sean.
Yeah.
So I would depending on the situation, I would actually try and add both. And there's no LSU bias for Jamal Adams, So if I got to watch the first part of the game before Adams got his concussion, I loved the way they were using him.
Yeah.
He was constantly down on the line in the box. He blitzed a couple of times. It's unfortunately he lowered his head and got kicked in it and was out for the rest of the game. Similarly, you look at how Kayvon Wallace is being used in Arizona. I don't expect Kayvon Wallace is going to keep Budda Baker off the field.
No.
And if they put Budda in the same situation that Kayvon's in, I love them both from that regard. So I don't know, Mark, whoever else you might have on your roster, but I'm actually starting Jamal Adams in one of my favorite leagues this week. I have that much confidence in him. And I was looking to try and trade for Budda Baker. So I love them both, and I would be trying to get them both if you can. By the way, I disagree with Sean. Budda Baker missed a bunch of games last year as well, with injuries and so forth. And so he is getting a little bit injury prone. I think the one thing I worry about him is his size and the way he plays. I think it's catching up with him a little bit.
It's an interesting debate with this question. That's why I'm so glad you asked it, Mark. But I'm closer to Ricky here as well. I called Jamal Adams a bust before the year, and that was based on his draft cost relative to him probably not starting the year active. And that was correct. If you drafted him, you probably dropped him, and he was a bust of a pick. But his usage when healthy has always been incredibly productive. And the same could be said of Budda Baker, except that one is on the field and one is not. So if I can roster both, I'd love it. If I could pick up Budda Baker, put him on my IR, and then take up Jamal Adams, I would love to do that. But if I had to strictly pick one or the other, if I had to, I'd probably take Jamal Adams just because I'll play him. If he gets hurt, I'll play another DB because I can typically find another DB option. Or you can just hop on the IDP Guys Start Sit Show or the Waiver Wire Show on Tuesdays and just find your new DB that way. A question from Matthew Poskus. Pick one superstars. Logan Wilson, Robert Spillane, Levante David. Logan Wilson. My pick. Anyone else disagree?
Considering for a second, I think I'll run with Logan Wilson as well. New England's offense has just been so bad. I just don't know how much they're going to be on the field for Spillane to rack up some stats.
Yeah, and even if he is, I mean, I don't know what he's going to do differently than what Logan Wilson provides. And pretty good matchup for Logan Wilson, at least. What about you, Sean?
I'm entertaining the Spillane idea. It's just on the chance that Jones is yanked out of the game and Cunningham comes in and takes off running a bunch.
I don't know if Spillane catches him if Lee Cunningham takes off running.
That's fair. Well, we see Spillane get a couple interceptions too. So I mean, he's got some big play. He's got sacks. Yeah. Logan Wilson's been a little quiet.
It's interesting because I think both the Spillane and David probably have the highest upside of the three, despite Logan Wilson being the best in coverage and in theory being the guy that should get the most interceptions. Yeah. But Levante David has an incredibly high ceiling, low floor. Robert Spillane has a decent floor, solid ceiling. I understand it. I'm chasing Logan Wilson because I think I think
it's probably the safer pick.
Yeah, I think there's a higher floor, similar ceiling.
So there you go. If you're looking for the best floor, safer pick, Wilson. If you want to take a chance, Spillane. David's not turbo either. We'll go with Wilson. I'll stick with you guys on that.
All righty, good to be unanimous. Another question in from Puskas. Any hope for Jaquan Brisker? Been a very disappointing sophomore season for Brisker. You're shaking your head, Sean. I actually think that this could be a better week for him. With Eddie Jackson back, I think it's going to be a big change to, or not a big change to his role, but it should free him up to do things he wasn't allowed to do when Eddie Jackson wasn't there. That's what I'm hoping. But it's certainly not something I'm willing to play. It's something I'm willing to bench and find out and roster. But if it doesn't work this week with Eddie Jackson back, no, there is no hope left for this year, at least. Still a dynasty buy, maybe because he's still a freak talent. But Ricky, what about you?
Just doing a quick check here. Minnesota is second in terms of average points given up to safeties.
Yep.
And with Eddie Jackson being back, those two things, I think this is the week for Brisker to either prove it.
Yeah.
Yep. Or otherwise, see you later, alligator.
Yep. Sean.
See, I'm worried with Jefferson being out now that Minnesota giving up the second most will now drop a lot because of how much that dynamic changes that offensive, scheme. So I don't have a lot of hope for him. I really don't. Not this year. With better linebackers in front of him, eating up all the tackles, he's losing that. Those opportunities. We're also getting Kyler Gordon back. So he's in there playing that slot. He eats up a few tackles as well. I don't have a lot of hope, but if he does anything, it's this weekend. Ricky's got a headache or something.
I just had a premonition come in.
Oh God!
Jaquan Brisker's going to get a sack this week.
I'd love it.
He will get a sack. Matthew, I am feeling it. This is Brisker's week, man. Go with it.
Well, we got.
He's buying potatoes, is what I heard.
We got some breaking news from Schefter. Nothing crazy, but Jalen Ramsey apparently ahead of his schedule in his recovery from his knee surgery that he had in July, pushing to come back sometime next month. Was a DB1 last year, so different system, different scheme, different everything, but something to consider at least with Jalen Ramsey expected to come back next week or next month. Sorry, around November 19th is the day they're throwing it around, which would be the week after the team's bye.
And I have some additional statistical support from Matthew, by the way.
Please.
Last week's premonitions, Dolphins 8 sacks. Okay, they only got 7. Van Ginkel getting a sack. Got it. Schultz getting a touchdown. Got it. Dalvin Cook getting a TD. Okay, I blew it. So 3 of 4. So it's worth the risk, Matthew.
75% chance Jaquan Brisker puts up 50 this week. You heard it here first. Willpower question. Offense this time. Jalen Waddle, Kenneth Walker, or Devontae Adams. What a good problem to have. Or Devontae Adams, I assume, in his flex, half PPR. He's starting Puka and Cup. This must be a 6-team league with Monty and CMC. I think, Will, you're just flexing your team on us here, man. I think you're just flexing on us. But
this is the humble brag post. That's what this is.
The Waddle, I don't even know if it's humble, to be honest. But Waddle, Walker, and Devontae Adams. It's between Walker and Adams for me. They both have really good matchups. The Bengals can't stop the run this year. I'm going to go Kenneth Walker, which is crazy. But I'm worried about Devontae Adams being healthy, and I'm not worried about any of that with Kenneth Walker. I think he's just going to run all over Cincinnati. Rookie.
Particularly in a half PPR, I'm going with Walker as well. I think you're spot on, Michael. I just Waddle's just not getting the targets, so you're not going to get the PPR upside with Waddle. He may get a big play or so, but he's not going to get the PPR upside. And Adams just, man, you watched the Green Bay game last week, and he just didn't get the targets and all. And I was listening to the radio this morning, and they were talking about when I was going, because I'm so well trained by my wife to go and get her a Starbucks every Sunday morning. And they were talking about the fact how Garoppolo doesn't like to throw in tight windows. Green Bay was double teaming. If New England does something similar this week, you could see Garoppolo going to Jacoby a lot. So all those reasons, let's go with Mr. Walker.
Sean.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Walker's the play here, and it's wild that Cincinnati has not been able to stop the run with that interior they have.
Been so good in the last few years at it.
It's wild because they really haven't changed anything. It's the same guys.
Yeah, it is a little confusing. But yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Kenneth Walker averaging 16 carries a week through the first 4 games of the season, had his week 5 bye. And a question from ourselves, Nathan, asking, is Ricky going to keep it up in SFB? Really, Ricky's the man to beat in Scott Fishbowl this year. I have fallen off out of 234 into I don't even know where after having a brutal loss last week to a 1-7 team that played T. Higgins. But Ricky, are you going to keep it up?
Well, I sure hope so. So I started off at 15. I'm down in the low 300s right now, so 320 something, whatever. But when the initial rankings came out for our audience, Nathan, our co-owner of IDP Guys, and the starter of the website, was out of the 3,300 teams. His team was ranked like 3,200. So Ricky made the mistake of just bashing the heck out of him. And so now he's on a vendetta to do whatever he can. He's paying off league mates not to pick up free agents. So he's built up his team. So
it's a very humble show. I love this.
Some serious collusion going on in Nathan's league there.
Charity league, Nathan. Jeez. 3,300 people in Scott Fishbowl, so incredibly well done there, Ricky. Question in from the Vibe Bar. He's playing Derwin James, Jalen Pitre. Good plays? Yes. I think I can speak for all of us here and don't need to go around to say that those are good plays, and we wish you the best, the Vibe Bar. And on that same note, question I'm assuming from Nathan, do you ride the hot Pitre hand after one good week over more consistent floor players? Yeah, to me, you do. And the question really is, it's more so viewing it like this. Pitre would have been doing that if he just was on the field. It's not like he was disappointing after and then put up a good week. Is that he was hurt. And then when he came back, he was pretty damn good. So I'm going to treat Pitre like I expect him to be, which is a DB1, and I'll play him over most other options. But if there are other names out there that people are considering with Pitre, I think it could be an interesting question because I don't think he's an auto start, but I do like him this week. Sean, what are your thoughts on Pitre?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that held Pitre back during the beginning was how hot Denzel Perryman came out. It ate up a bunch of those tackles. And with him being kind of limited last week, we've seen Pitre blow up a bit. So I see where there could be concern that once Perryman comes back to 100% and is on the field more, Pitre might drop a little bit. But you drafted this guy as probably the top safety in the draft, so you're playing him more than likely.
Ricky.
Choo-choo! We on the Pitre train.
There we go. All right, so we're going to be switching over to another type of vehicle here. Are the wheels up on Nakobe Dean finally back after getting hurt in week 1? We haven't seen him in over a month, but now he's off the IR, expected to play. Are we willing to play him in his first game back? I am. I think the Eagles have Nicholas Morrow has played fairly well in his turn. I don't think Zach Cunningham has, and I think they're desperate to get Nakobe Dean back on the field. So I'm willing to take the chance on Nakobe Dean this week if you don't have better options. But Ricky, I'm curious what you think.
I am sitting him up this week if I have better options, to be honest with you. I'm not aligned with you on this one, Michael. And the Jets, too, with their offense, they are near the bottom of the pack in giving up points to linebackers. And, Morrow hasn't been, he hasn't been superstar. He's not going to the Hall of Fame, but he did have the 3-sack game and all. I could see them easing him back in potentially. And so I'm a little bit hesitant. He may play a lot, but boy, I tell you what, Will, I'm not on the train this week on Nakobe.
To me, it always depends on what your other option is, because I don't mind playing Nakobe Dean if there are equal options. I'll avoid this risk and play the other option, but I do ultimately lean on the side of playing him. Sean, what about you?
Yeah, I'm with Ricky here. It's not a great matchup this week, and we don't know how he will be integrated back in, or if it'd be just straight solid 100% starter again. If they take Cunningham off and leave him and Morrow both, or if he just kicks Morrow out altogether.
If the game becomes a blowout, there's just
even earlier, right?
I haven't
been big on Nakobe Dean at all. I don't know why. There's just something I'm just not in love with. That being said, the first game or two there, he looked really good, but I'm not playing him this week.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm along the same lines as you, Sean. Despite me saying you can play him, because I worry about him holding up. I worried about that as a prospect. It was why he slipped in the draft. He's undersized, and that's my concern. But while he's out there, I have less concerns. I'm not worried about the talent. I'm worried about his durability, which has already proved to be quite the issue for Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Uh,
And the other thing too, it's not like he was a starter all year like a Roquan Smith last year or whatever. He barely played last year, so they gave him the green dot to start the year. He played in one game, got hurt. So yeah, okay, I'm done.
all right. Well, we'll be talking about that next week, I'm sure, one way or another. Fantasy Sports asking which two safeties should he play: Dax Hill, Kyle Duggar, Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates feels like a hard guy to bench at this point of his start with the Falcons. But Sean, do you have any immediate thoughts about which two safeties you'd play here?
Yeah, I don't trust Duggar at
That's
all.
kind of my consensus as well. I don't want to get on that train. That's not the
Yeah,
choo-choo that I want to be attached
That
to.
that is
yeah,
definitely not the choo-choo.
yeah. I jumped off that a long time ago, and I'm not going back. It's Bates and Hill. Hill's been really well. I think except for last week. I think he had a down week, but yeah,
Should be good against Seattle.
give me the Bengal and the formal Bengal.
Yeah. Ricky, I got the sense that you were in agreement on that.
Absolutely. Duggar's really only had one outstanding game. The rest have been pretty mediocre. And even with that, he's like a low end two, number 3 kind of safety. So this is an easy one for me. Duggar's out.
Yeah. On paper, this is Duggar's toughest matchup of the year as well. So it makes it a little bit easier to sit him as well. So another question from Fantasy Sports: which two linebackers should he start? Kazir White or Ernest Jones? Ernest Jones being questionable all week. Last I saw, he wasn't practicing. Did he get a practice in on Friday? He is expected to play. So most recent report
Yes.
from Sean McVay saying that he is going to play, should step back into an every down role. With that in mind, it's difficult to not play Ernest Jones based on how amazing he's been. Also, I just realized it's which two linebackers should you start, and you've only given us
Start them both.
Yeah, I was about to say
Yeah.
start them both. Maybe.
I would say of the two linebackers, you would play the two linebackers if you have to. So until we get some clarity on that one, I'm just going to move on to Matthew Puskas here. Half PPR offense sit one. All right, we're sitting one here of Mike Evans. No, refuse to. Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, Nico Collins, Jordan Addison. He could also swap Goff out to keep all of them in. But no, I don't think any of us would do that in a half PPR league, especially. So sitting one for me, it's Nico. I understand he's been good this year. I like Nico Collins. I just don't like him matching up with Marshawn Lattimore, who, to me, that screams like the matchup based on the size of the two players. So that he'll certainly be following him one way or another. No Tank Dell as well. So, Ricky, Mr. Saints fan, any disagreement on that?
I'm sitting Nico out of this group as well. I mean, nice that you have that to choose from, Matthew, but Nico's the one I'm going to sit out on this one.
Sean?
I want to be right there with you guys, but Devonta Smith hasn't done anything.
Yeah, it's been rough for Devonta as well, but no DJ Reed, no Sauce Gardner.
And Devonta was a little bit of a squeaky wheel this past week. And we saw what happened when AJ Brown was a squeaky wheel. Then Dallas Goedert made a couple of comments, and the coach made a comments. This could very well be the Devonta grease the squeaky wheel week. Just food for thought.
Does that sway you at all, Sean?
He's going to say no because he likes to disagree with me.
I'm sitting Smith. I am.
Sitting Smith. Okay, there you go. Listen, I don't hate that call because the Jets have are one of the best matchups for tight ends this year. You know, AJ Brown's going to get his, and that does leave the question of where does that leave Devonta Smith in a game the Eagles don't need to pass a lot, or we don't expect them to pass a lot. But I just have I have concerns with Nico right now against in that matchup, especially without another receiver to take away attention. No Tank Dell. It'll be Robert Woods in the slot, and that's really it. So I'm gonna.
The Saints defense is a really tough matchup, totally unbiased.
Yeah, both are tough matchups. So I think both will have honestly tougher days, but I'm just gonna trust the Eagles to figure it out over the Texans. Question from Crow Cop, defensive back, big play scoring, picking 2. Kevon Wallace, Daxton Hill, and Jaquan Brisker. He's also worried about Myles Garrett against San Francisco. Would you pivot to Tuli Tuipulotu or someone else from Monday Night Football? I refuse to not play Myles Garrett. It's a trust the talent and hope it works out, and you'll feel terrible if it works out and you bench him. And then for me, it's Dax Hill and Kevon Wallace. Jaquan Brisker, again, we talked about it before. We need to see it. I think it could work this week, but I need to see it. Sean, what about you?
I'm with you 100% on all that, on the analysis with Myles and the two defensive backs there. I'm not benching Myles Garrett. I know it's not great, but big stars against big matchups usually find a way.
Coming off a bye week as well, well rested. Mm-hmm. What about you, Ricky?
Play your stud. We're all aligned on Myles Garrett. You know, you wouldn't bench Mahomes or something like that. Same type of concept, but a defensive end. So, and on I just have a gut feeling on Brisker, guys. I'm going Brisker and Dax on this one.
I like the confidence. I like the confidence. I do.
So I clearly understand the argument for Kayvon and Dax, but this one, since we're not talking about Myles Garrett type studs, the matchup against Minnesota, I like Brisker and Dax.
This is the type of thing where I think me knowing that Myles Garrett's got a tough matchup and I might not get the top end performance has me shooting for a little bit more of a floor with Kevon Wallace instead of the zero possibility type, not zero, but a lower floor of Jaquan Brisker this year. But
the 49ers have given up about 2 sacks a game, if I remember correctly, and their weak link is on, at right tackle. So I think you'll see Myles Garrett over the right tackle where it used to be McGlinchey, and so I think he's got a shot for one of those 2 sacks that they're going to get this week.
I think it's going to be a George Kittle versus Myles Garrett week, and then that right tackle on top of that. But it's going to be
it's a possibility. Yeah. It's a reason not to play Kittle. Another reason not to play Kittle this week if you have other options, which you probably don't.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Coming off the hot week last week as well. Reed Blankenship or Wallace, he's a little bit scared about owning. Yeah, we talked about it before about don't worry about the sharing the field as much, especially with IDP. I think we are free flowing enough. That the stats are coming one way or another, and if you looked at it on a different roster, you would want them on yours. So you wouldn't. I wouldn't worry about having 2 players on the same team. We touched on that before. We got the Linus reference. Wonderful. Well done. Ricky. Well done. Willpower also. Beth. Yeah, we mentioned the buys. I'm trying to go. He did also say that he is trying to go undefeated. So, no room to give up.
It's overrated.
Yeah, it is overrated. But either way, it's all about winning the chip. No one remembers at the end of the undefeated. But, yeah. Let's see.
So, Denzel Perryman is out.
Denzel Perryman is out. Interesting. So, Christian Harris should be active. Either way, it's Henry Toto.
So, no fears for Jalen Petrie then. So, he was the only concern about – maybe still in a little bit of that thunder, but he is apparently out.
Yep, and Kyle Hamilton has just been ejected from this London game after a helmet-to-helmet hit on Chris Moore. So,
also overrated.
Overrated.
Who you seeing is over? Kyle Hamilton.
Kyle Hamilton.
He's not overrated. It's just not working here.
They're just not using him right.
Out of there, and then maybe. But
yeah. T. Higgins, real quick. Sorry, T. Higgins, Tank Dell are definitely both inactive as FY.
Okay, that's the Tank Dell one was. Oh no, T. Higgins is active.
My bad. Oh, sorry, audience. Yes, T. Higgins is active.
Interesting.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah. So we got some of those inactives right now. Let me pull them up, or at least so I can say them. As soon as I find out where the hell that notification just went, unless it disappeared on me. Zay Jones is out. I do know that. Zay Jones is out. Elijah Mitchell is in. Robert Woods is in. T. Higgins in. David Njoku Burns in. Mo Alley Cox also playing. Inactive would be Tank Dell, Chase Claypool, healthy scratch, and a few others. Zay Jones is out, like I said. So we're going to keep on moving on here with these IDPs. Jalen Thompson out this week. Does that affect Kevon Wallace? And does Budda Baker come back? I guess which Arizona safety affects Kevon Wallace in the long run? It's Budda Baker. I mean that's the play for play, guy for guy we saw fill in and the tackles and everything like that. Ricky, I saw you agree with me. Sean, any disagreement on that?
I believe the first game they all three played, they all three did pretty decent. So
Yeah.
I'm not scared about Buddha coming back to take Wallace out just yet, based on the fact that they're pretty much just running Kaiser White as the main linebacker.
There
We
is
could
no
see,
linebacker too. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we could see three safeties all season long. So until he's fully kicked out, I'm starting Wallace. He's been a really great pickup.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's definitely worth holding through and not an immediate drop when one comes back.
Yeah, unless you're in
And
a shallow league and you need to get rid of him for somebody
yeah.
else, that's fine. But
Yeah.
deep league, no, I'm not just throwing him out just yet.
Fantasy Sports with another question. Should he drop any one of Bates, Kyle Duggar, Dax Hill, or Kyle Hamilton for Von Bell, who is out this week, Jermaine Kearse, or Jordan Fuller? Jordan Fuller is standing out to me as one of those three names. Would you drop? I guess the real question, right, is Kyle Hamilton or Duggar for Jordan Fuller? And based on your responses before, I got a feeling which way you're going to lean on this one. But Ricky, would you make any of these moves?
Michael, they call that leading the witness, what you just did, and that's absolutely correct. I am dropping Duggar and I'm grabbing Jordan Fuller.
Called setting up a question in this, it's actually good in this setup. Sean,
I would drop Duggar and or Hamilton for Bell and Fuller. I know Bell's out, but going forward, he's been one of the few bright spots on that Panthers defense.
yeah, it pains me, but I'm in full agreement with Sean. Kyle Hamilton's been too up and down this year. I truly believe in the talent, just don't believe in their usage for him this year. So
By
Kyle
the way,
Hamilton,
I'll jump on that bandwagon with the two of you as well. I would do the same as well. So Duggar and Hamilton, see you later, alligator, and bring on Bell and Fuller.
yep, and yeah.
Now the one thing, check the buys is the only thing I'd suggest to fantasy sports. As we were talking about earlier, we got Buymageddon next week, and then there's another one later. So just make sure you're keeping that balance as well.
Yeah, week 7 to 9 is always a tough one. Miles Sanders also out. Jeff Wilson, we kind of knew this already, but out. Van Jefferson will be making his Falcons debut. So interesting to watch there. Fantasy Sports also asking who's the safety or linebacker to own in Dallas. Where do you rank them? If you check out the IDP Guys newsletter, which link in our IDP bio, I talked about Dallas at length in there and wrote about it. And we talked about it a little bit at the top of the show, but I think Damone Clark is going to be the linebacker that gets the biggest jump here. If Rashaan Evans gets activated next week, if Damone Clark struggles this week, then maybe that changes. But going into this week, I'm expecting it to be Damone Clark and Donovan Wilson being the most productive safeties. Any disagreements there from you guys? Ricky?
No disagreement, but if you could, Rashaan Evans isn't necessarily a great linebacker, but he accumulates stats.
Yes,
so if they do bring him up at some point, this might be a great time to grab him before the game starts, stash him on the end of your bench, and see what happens next week.
Sean?
Yeah, I agree with all of that.
All right, perfect. Always good when we're all agreeing.
One more, guys. Jalen Phillips is healthy this week.
Oh my God, we get Jalen Phillips for a week. Finally,
for the start of the game.
Yeah, we get him for a drive, maybe a couple snaps. We'll get him for at least Jamal Adams' workload. Yes.
Can I ask you guys what you think is going to happen with Van Ginkel with Phillips playing? So you got Phillips and Chubb on the outside. You got Long and Baker. Long passed up Baker in snaps last week, whereas in week 1, Baker was way ahead of Long, and all we're wondering what the heck is happening. What do you think is going to happen with Van Ginkel this week, and would you play him? That could be something our audience is dealing with.
Yeah, it's a great question. Baker's just a guy that's Jerome Baker is so unbelievably mid as a linebacker, for a lack of a better word. So I do expect that to happen. I think Van Ginkel could slide a little bit more inside, but truthfully, I just think he becomes more of a rotational piece. They use him when they want to. We're not going to have enough snaps to trust him. He's going to be sack or bust, which kind of he's been more or less the last few weeks. He just has been getting those sacks. And now with the snaps expected to drop, there's just less room for error. So I'm willing to hold him, I guess, through this week just to see what it looks like with Jalen Phillips back, but I'm not holding out any hope. Sean, what about you?
I'm going to play him this week because it's
Ooh.
Carolina. They're not
Yeah, it
great.
is Carolina. Yeah.
So if it becomes a blowout, I think he'll get a little more time because you're not going to leave Phillips in there this entire game against Carolina. You're not going to need it, and you don't have to. You know what I mean? So I will play him this week and see where those numbers go. So if he loses all the snaps and comes down to just a rotational guy, or if he jumps inside and plays a little more, which isn't his greatest game, he is a pass rusher. They don't need to kick him inside. So I would like to see him take over for Chubb and make Chubb rotational. But
If we know that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So
The rotation maybe, but not never taken over. But Ricky, did you have any thoughts yourself on that question?
I like the thought about this week with Phillips eating ease back in a blowout game, but going forward, boy, I tell you what, I'm hesitating right now. I'm worried he could do damage to all potentially many of them in terms of their total outputs.
Yeah, I think that's totally possible. Especially that's why, that's always the thing to remember with productive players. Players, when they produce, they don't always just disappear. Especially when we're talking about defensive linemen, effectively defensive linemen that are getting to the passer. These aren't safety box, just tackles I'm about Sam Franklin or something in Carolina. Sam Franklin is very good. It has been very good, but he's not that. He's going to be replaced as soon as someone comes back, as soon as Von Bell, as soon as Xavier Woods comes back. So it's different with defensive linemen because there is a true art and true skill to getting to the passer, and any team needs that, and every team is rotating nowadays. So
right, tackles are replaceable, sacks are not.
Sacks are valued. Yeah. We're talking about following Ricky for IDP props. He does have the premonition, so it is something to look out for at least. Another question from Fantasy Sport. Who's the wide receiver to own in Pittsburgh? Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, and will you drop Zay Flowers for them? No. I'll take this one, guys. As the Steelers fan.
That's the biased resident Steeler fan. Fantasy Sports.
See, what bias do I have? I'm curious what bias you think I have. You know me, Ricky, at this point.
This man is dead inside right now.
It is such an unwatchable offense. Who is the wide receiver to own? Before the season, I would have said Deontay. Right now, I'll just take Pickens because he's the only one that's going to make his receptions worth it. But I don't want either, and I'll hold Zay Flowers over both because this offense is putrid, and I'd just rather attack the Baltimore offense than the Steelers offense, even with the up-and-down nature of Zay Flowers so far this year, which comes with the territory with any rookie. Any disagreement from my Dolphins and Saints fans here?
You nailed it.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Ricky, you're on the same page.
I'm gonna roll with the Pittsburgh Steeler guru, man.
It sucks. It's such a bad team. They have no right to be winning games. It's remarkable. But Mark LeBlanc, is that he's responding to Will in that one? All right. Let me go on over to the next question. Another one from Fantasy Sports. Which of the two? I think we answered that of Kazir or Ernest, right?
Yeah, and they're in the same game at the same time, so you get to see if Ernest Jones is playing for sure. But if Ernest Jones is active, that's who I'm playing. I don't know if we were that transparent. At least that's where I'm on that one.
Yeah. That's where I lean as well. Sean,
yeah.
Perfect. Kings Classic for I assume this is Nate. Starting one of Kamara or Montgomery. Well, I love Kamara this week, but
that is our co-owner being a smart ass. So during the sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on a live stream.
You can do. You're the co-owner.
During the Kings Classic, we were on the curve for the draft, and I wanted to pick Montgomery bad, and I have Montgomery rated as a top 10 on my rankings board. But Nathan is whispering in my ear during the draft, I hate Montgomery. I said, but he's with your Lions now because Nathan's a Lions fan. And but he's like, but he was with the Bears. I hate him. I said, dude, he's going to have a great year. No, don't take him. So I picked Kamara up, and Montgomery got picked in between. And I was going to do the Montgomery and then Kamara thing. So that would be very helpful for our Kings Classic team. That's all I'm going to say.
That is important backstory that we get here.
Yeah. So do not have your co-owner whispering in your ear biases when you draft.
Yeah, that's a good note to have. I think honestly both have great weeks. I can't bench Montgomery right now. I could feel okay benching Kamara. I can't feel good benching Montgomery. Despite Kamara having a better matchup on paper.
Draft better, Nate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the summation here. I traded him Jahmyr Gibbs in week 1 for J.K. Dobbins effectively, and I got a startup pick next year, and somehow I feel okay with that, which is really fun.
I think is
Yeah,
what you meant.
swindled with my torn Achilles.
The good news for Nathan is that his Spirit Airlines flight did not crash on the way to Michigan,
That is
and
true.
apparently he's not totally 100% hungover from his brother's wedding yesterday, or
Responsive.
maybe he's like partially hungover.
He's responsive, which is
Yes.
good. Some important news coming out right now is more inactives. Dre Greenlaw is inactive, will not be playing today with a hamstring injury. Was able to start off the week not practicing, was able to get a few in. I think there was optimism that he was going to play, but Dre Greenlaw will be out this week, so make sure he is not in any of your fantasy lineups. We got about 10 minutes to go in the show, so we're going to try to get to as many of these questions as possible, keep them rolling in because we want to help you guys out. Devonta Smith against those Jets without Sauce Gardner or DJ Reed, or Drake London in a near perfect matchup against Washington, but you do have to trust Desmond Ridder. Somewhat difficult, honestly. I won't lie. This actually gives me pause, but I'll go with squeaky wheel idea with Devonta Smith in that matchup against the cornerbacks. But I do like this matchup with Washington. They have allowed so many touchdowns to receivers this year. Sean.
Yeah, I'll stick with Smith on this one. I don't trust London. I just don't. I don't trust Ridder, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's I don't trust London because I don't trust Ridder because I don't trust Arthur Smith.
Right.
So, and so Ridder's at home and he's never lost a home game.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean London's gonna light it up. I'm sticking with the more proven talent, and I'm sticking with Devontae and the squeaky wheel comments we talked about earlier.
It's the Jonnu Smith show down there in Atlanta.
What a world! What a world! It is the year 2023. PPR question from Brian Williams. Who would you rather play, Ramondre Stevenson or Dante Foreman? Dante Foreman, the last Bears running back alive next to Darrington Evans, and Ramondre Stevenson in seemingly a good matchup against the Raiders. So, Minnesota and the Raiders, the two matchups here. Ricky, I'll start with you. Which one are you picking?
Wow, we're not picking from filet mignon. We're not picking from ribeye steaks here. We're not picking from New York strip. We're in some ground chuck kind of territory right now here, and ground might be the appropriate word. Boy, Stevenson just is I don't know if he's overweight, and we're the offensive line we know is bad. Granted, it is the Raiders and all, but golly, I'd rather take the chance on Foreman against Minnesota, folks, this week. Stevenson has just been such a disappointment in the whole New England thing. And then you can see them getting off to a bad start, and all of a sudden Will Greer's in there and Malik Cunningham's. It's just going to be a mess. I'm going with Foreman on this one.
Sean.
Yeah, I think Foreman can manage maybe a touchdown or two. It's not a great choice here, but yeah, I'll go with Ricky. Take the upside, the big play chance here with Foreman. Stevenson's not been good at all.
Yeah, it's tough because I was looking at this and I was initially thinking that I would go with Stevenson because he still has seen 16 touches in all but one game this year. And obviously Dante Foreman should get a lot of work, but it's not as good of a matchup against Minnesota and all that. Right. That said, I actually think Dante Foreman is going to get passing downs. And I don't think Ramondre Stevenson does. It's been Zeke getting those pass blocking work all year. So, and that's been the biggest blow to Ramondre Stevenson is the lack of receptions. He only has 12 through 5 weeks. So I'm going to go Foreman. I'm going to trust him to at least equal out the receiving work that Ramondre Stevenson does. And I think that he could fall in the end zone because I do think Chicago moves the ball better than the Patriots will, even against the Raiders. Fantasy Sports asking, who is the linebacker to own in Los Angeles? Eric Kendricks, Kenneth Murray. Still Eric Kendricks for me, but it's closer than we thought it would ever be. Any disagreement there, Sean?
I'll just take Murray just for argument's sake. Just because he has been so well. I'm not super excited about either one. right now.
James Murray's looked good this year. I've never said that sentence before.
Right.
So,
I don't think I have either. But
contract year, man.
Although
Contract year.
it
Kendrick's
really.
age,
Oh, sorry, Sean. Go ahead, buddy.
with Kendrick's age and everything, I think Murray may have actually kind of won this over a bit.
So really interesting. So, both of them started with week one, 100% of the snaps for Kendricks, and then Murray had 90, and then Kendricks ended up getting hurt, not playing. But then they came back in week 4, the week before the bye. Remember, they were on bye in week 5.
Yep.
Murray played 100% of the snaps. Kendricks played 68, but Murray hardly produced squat.
I remember
and
that.
so, yeah, he did not produce at all. So if this is for dynasty purposes, and given Kendrick's age, I'm clearly going with Murray, and we'll see who pays him and lets him get a cumulative stats in the future. This year, though, even though Kendrick's only played 68% of the snaps, I think it was just because of his first game back. I think he takes back over. I think he gets more stats. I'm going Kendrick's over Murray for this year in a redraft type format.
4 minutes to go. Let's try to get to as many as we can here. Rapid fire. Another one from Brian Williams. Derwin James first came back from the injury, or Dax Hill. 2 good options. I play the star. I play Derwin James. As good as Dax Hill has been. 3 for 3. Hands raised. Touchdown. All unanimous. All right. Willpower asking. Nope, that's comment. Mark asking Dante Foreman or Jordan Addison. He has Kirk Cousins, so he could get greedy with the stack, or does he take the floor of the running back? I'll play Jordan Addison against that against that Chicago secondary. I'll get greedy with the stack all day. Although I do want to temper my expectations for Addison as a whole with Jefferson's sideline. But anyone playing Dante Foreman on that one? Nope. Well, Jordan Addison. We are 2 for 2 as a team here. Fancy Sports saying he dropped Miles Sanders to get James Conner. Did he make the right move? He immediately put him on his IL spot. Yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, I don't mind it. I don't see any harm in it because Miles Sanders is also missing time and he's not looked good to begin with. Would you guys not make this move? Sean?
I think it was a decent move there. You're playing for the future here, not.
And you get the bench spot back
today. Yeah. I
mean,
you can pick Miles back up if you want.
If you're playing for the stretch run, I'm definitely picking up Connor. And the thing with Connor that could be interesting is the trade deadline's October 31st.
Yeah.
He could end up being traded to a team that's in need of a running back. Could you imagine him in the backfield with Tony Pollard, for example, and playing that old Zeke role? So I like the upside from Connor, whether he stays with Arizona and when Kyler comes back or whatever. So depending on your roster format, and I know I got to shut up because we need to move on to the next question, but I like Connor for those reasons.
Willpower, Quincy or Kazir? I think we answered that. I think we said Quincy. And Kavon Wallace over Blankenship. I think we touched on that with Will already. Another one from Victor Ramirez. Tackle heavy IDP. Sacks are only 2 points. So would you start Van Ginkel, Zaven Collins, or Dexter Lawrence? 1 very different players, all 3 of these guys. In terms of at least production. This is not easy for a tackle. These are not the names I was expecting with the tackle heavy question, to be honest. I'll go Dexter Lawrence if I have to pick one.
Tackle heavy, to me, this is a no-brainer. Sexy Dexy.
He's hurt me this year, Dexy. But
he hasn't been great.
Yeah, Sean.
I still think he gives you the best tackle upside. It would be Dexter, Ginkel, and then Collins in that order, I think.
Yep. Nate wanted to point out that Ricky was the one who picked the draft one on Kamara. So
that's here. So
taking shots. Fan Sports saying thanks for doing a IDP live. Listen, man, we are here for you to answer all these questions. We know that IDP community is somewhat underserved by the big sites, so we're here to really provide you guys with everything you could possibly need to win your Week 6 matchup because IDP matters too. Another one from Victor Ramirez. Same scoring format. The tackle heavy sacks are only 2 points. Would you play Spillane, Dodson, Shaq Leonard? No. Spillane, Dodson, EJ Speed, or Donovan Wilson? Shaq Leonard hurt me last week so badly, or 2 weeks ago. To me, it's Spillane without much question here.
Yeah, Spillane followed by Dodson for me.
Yeah, it would be Spillane followed by Speed for me, just because I want to see that Buffalo situation fill out first. But either way, Sean, any disagreement there?
Dive with you guys.
I gotta
Dotson and Speed are probably going to play about the same amount right now.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, but yeah, Spillane, maybe Wilson after that. But
yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I had Bernard in my head, not Dotson, so I take my comment back. It even more clearly Spillane in my mind then.
Yeah, it's always fun with Buffalo, man. They want to point out it was a dry wedding, so he's not hungover. Fantasy sports, bring it up. Is New England the worst team for fantasy? Our last question in here. Is New England the worst team for fantasy? You can't trust anyone on offense or defense. And yeah.
The New York Giants could give them a run for their money.
You can trust Okereke. And you
can, for defense. Okay, fair enough.
Offense and defense. And this is the only defense in the league that we really don't have a single person. Maybe Miles Bryant. I can trust Miles Bryant to an extent. But even then,
Matt Judon before he got hurt.
Yes, but now he's not in there. If Matt Judon was in there, I'd be right there with you. I do actually want to take a second. This is the last question we're doing. Is there any other team that is a little more untrustworthy? Probably not, right?
Wow, I'm just thinking through the teams real quick. On both sides of the ball,
the Broncos aren't great.
Well, you can still play Singleton. You can play, in defense. Maybe Josie Jewell a little bit. But boy, that's
Denver would be the contender. Denver would be the other contender, but you could kind of maybe play Russ, but then he hurt you on Thursday.
Yeah, he hurt me bad.
But you're not playing Dak, which means I guess it's a quality that if you're not going to play Mac Jones, it doesn't hurt you as much.
So, which team would you take more chances with?
Denver or New England? Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Denver.
I'm getting hurt by Jerry Jeudy, man. I can't stop. I need to go to Jerry Jeudy rehab. That's what I need.
I'm picking up Anthony Jennings in quite a few places and hopes he is the next Matt Judon. So
yeah, he is indeed a linebacker pass rusher. Yeah.
So I just had a premonition. You're going to be very disappointed in your Anthony.
I'm not starting him. I'm not starting him. These are really deep leagues where there's nothing left.
Well, there we heard Anthony Jennings, the new Matt Judon, according to Shaun of the Dead here.
Yeah, potentially. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you all for tuning in to the IDP Guys Start Show Week 6. I am so happy to get all these questions over and over again because we are so happy to help you guys out because that's what we're here for. We don't make content if there's no one to receive it, and I'm happy that you guys are here to receive it. A final question in for the send-off. Emiliano and Andrew Jar getting this question in at the last minute. John Smith, Mikey Secchi, David Njoku. You are choosing between Arthur Smith's buddy, the backup tight end in New England, and someone who has half of his face burned off and is still playing football because he's a freak of a human being.
And has P.J. Walker as his quarterback.
And has P.J. Walker. We'll go Jonnu Smith and just rock this as a team. Am I right, guys?
Yep. Jonnu.
There we go, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the IDP Guys Starts It show of Week 6. We'll be doing this again next Sunday at same time, 11 a.m. Eastern. Tuning in, dropping in those questions as usual. You guys are all great. Be sure for your waiver needs, check out our show on Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. We do a live waiver wire show breaking down what you need to know for your waiver pickups. And obviously all of our articles touch on that as well if you are a subscriber to the IDP Guys. So join the family here, guys. It's a blast, and we always like to have fun with our subscribers in the Discord chat. We only have an hour for these shows. Our Discord chats are open 24/7 every single day of the week. Here to help you guys out with more than just start sits, but whatever you may need. So a little send off for each of you guys. How you doing today, Sean? Give us a little send off where we can find you.
On the Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Sean8386. Doing some writing here for idpguys.org and hanging out with you awesome guys on Sunday mornings.
Yes, sir. Ricky.
At Ricky Rod 66 and at IDP Guys, come and join the family, folks. We're having a great time, and Michael talked about we're up to almost 6,000 on Twitter following us, and it's because we have great information, great content. We have great fun as well. So come on and join us.
Yeah, and really the best thing is just so much more to come as well. We have more tools coming out at consistently. We have weekly finishes. We have we have weekly finishes. We obviously have rankings. We got ADP. We got our Discord. We have so much going on with the IDP guys, and like I said, more to come. So, for myself, for Ricky, and for Sean down there, Sean of the Dead, I am Michael Scully at Michael_Scully. Be sure to follow the IDP guys on socials everywhere, and we'll see you guys next Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern, for Week 7 Start Sits.